Sunday Book Club. You may not have seen me on a video in a while if you follow my content because I have a new office space and I've been transitioning into it. It's just downstairs. This video is an attempt to break down parts of these executive functions, and I want to show you the contents to a better way. And it's based off a school assessment tool, or really a tool they use for school evaluations called the brief. And I'm going to include a picture because I can never remember what it stands for, except the E and the F are executive functions. What are my executive functions? My executive functions live in my prefrontal cortex, the last part of my human brain to develop, the green area. My executive functions are what separate me from other species. I can think, reason, and problem solve. I'm going to show you some symbols I use that maybe you've already seen me use before. So this is the symbol for thoughts, and sometimes I also add ideas. This is the symbol for feelings, but often how I explain feelings is like felt sensations, so mind, heart, belly, and then muscles and skin. And then impulses, so sparks and charges of energy, so impulses and urges. And then actions would be what I do, what I say, or what I don't say and don't do. And then results can be the data or desired outcomes. So results. So how this looks in the frame is my thoughts and feelings are connected, and they contribute to sparks and charges of energy that lead to action. And ultimately that leads to results. And then my results feed my thinking. And in here, when I call it the frame, this could be a situation. And a situation is going to be people and the place and what's happening. Executive functioning. So executive, let's break it down to execute. We can also consider an executive a leader. So what do I want to lead? My executive functions lead my thinking. My executive functions lead my feeling, and my executive functions lead my behavior. So now let's break it down to skills. So to control is to regulate. So what are my thinking regulations? How do I control my thinking? So I can control my thinking with the skills of getting started, initiate, I can access my working memory, what I know or what I think I know is how I describe it. So we had initiate, working memory, and then making a plan for what's my desired outcome, or what is my done goal? And then monitor the plan is my checklist. What do I need to do? It's just like a story, right? What do I need to do to get to my done goal? And then what do I need? So the last inner resource, organize, so it's time and materials. What do I need to execute my plan? So thinking regulation, getting started, using or accessing what I know or think I know, having a plan, so having a done goal, like what's the desired outcome, what are the steps to that plan, or planning could include those steps, but then executing, monitoring the plan to completion. So task completion, monitoring the plan, that's an inner resource. And then what do I need to organize the plan? So how do I prioritize as well? I can't access my executive skills in my frontal lobe if I'm stuck in the lower part of my brain, like the limbic system. So to regulate my behavior, or my emotions. So emotion, I just wrote that because I say feelings. So emotional regulation. So the two inner resources or executive functions that support emotional regulation is to be able to shift. Shift includes the unexpected, and transitioning. So you could transition from the environment, you can transition into a different way of thinking, and then so emotional control, can I identify what's happening? Can I understand? And can I manage it? Can I soothe my response? And when I soothe my response, I'm contributing to a regulated state. Behavior regulation is actions, what I say or do, or what I don't say or do. So how do I control my impulses and urges? So that's the first one, to inhibit. But I'd have to be able to notice my urges and have a desired outcome to have a desire to control it, to inhibit, and then to monitor, self-monitor is to read the room. Where am I in space and time? And that, if you've ever seen this, so where am I in space, time, what are my clues? What are the objects and people? So when we think of being regulated, let's think of the normalized distribution. That there's like this normalized group that's around 65%. There's out the extremes that are in the 1 to 3. and then there's these spaces between. So now let's use this normalized distribution for like zones of regulation. So imagine this is the green zone, a regulated state. A regulated state is where I can access my executive functions, so I can execute a plan, so I can lead my thoughts, feelings, actions, so to move towards desired outcomes. So let's say when we get out of that and our energy is starting to disconnect, and it's going to warn us because it's growing. When we get out of that and we're heading towards like fight, it's going to warn us, right? So, and whenever we think of these like normalized distributions or behavior, think of intensity, duration, how often or how long, and frequency, how often. So over here, my energy is going to give me an indicator that I'm being disconnected and my energy is starting to get dull. Over here, my energy is starting to move faster. So if you think of these two extremes, so this is extreme fight, and like revenge and hostileness, and if you think really extreme like homicidal ideation, over here is just sadness, existential doubt, dullness, despair. You think of suicidal ideation over here. But so the ideation could just be the intensity, right? Completion could be the intensity. So there's a range here at varying levels of intensity, length, and frequency, how often. But if you could start to think about your own life from the lens of self-care, is that we should be in this balanced state of equilibrium where we can access our problem solving and move towards discomfort 65% of the time, most of the time. This energetic, like when we start to disconnect from this regulated state, or think of like a really strong wireless connection, real clear. So from that state, you can grow and expand and create and all that stuff. So these indicators out here, whether the energy is moving faster or slower, those are indicators. And if we can grow in our awareness to notice the discomfort when we're outside of this state, we can take less duration to soothe the discomfort to move towards our desired outcome. So, and then these zones, these can be varied intensities, right? So we each are going to have our extreme. So maybe a low intensity extreme, maybe like I need to take a mental health day. Maybe a low intensity extreme over here, maybe I just need to take a break from that person, right? So these extremes do not have to be like completion of really violent means towards self or others. It can vary. So this is just a way to be curious about your own regulated state. This is regulated. This is where everything lives. This is where flexibility lives. This is where all those executive functions live. This is where we're a problem solver. And that's what we're trying to do, is execute better results. This is also where creativity in the check-in, being inspiration and possibility. So checking in. All right, so let's see if we can connect the integrated state. So thoughts and ideas are up here in the mind space. And then our physical senses sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, and then our heart space. So if you think of this as ground, like earth, ground, and if you think of this as like sky, clouds, space, right? My mind is like the clear blue sky. My heart is like an open green field. My belly is like the stable orange core of the earth. So ground, stability, clarity, right? So non-physical, physical, and then this integrated space is open. So this allows me to express myself. Like think of these as like puzzle pieces. So if my thoughts are floating outside of where my body is in space and time, I'm disconnected, right? So the energetic, so this would be like if you think of this as like a wireless connection, this would not have a clear connection. So mind, heart, body, and then everything that exists, like if you can think of this as like three-dimensional, and everything that's like in the space, like where my hands are, like that's the awareness. I think you could refer to it, if it makes sense to you, the quantum field. And I like this, like these thoughts are ripples in the quantum. So everything is playing together. So if I have negative thoughts, I'm creating negative vibrations, attracting negative vibrations. If I'm creating positive thoughts, I'm creating a positive vibration that's attracting positive vibrations. This was the integrated